So welcome to biology tutoring. For this week, we're going to be doing genetics. So genes is the study on how living organisms, such as people, inherit traits from our parents. Genes are the basic units of hereditary. They carry your information that makes you. In fact, genes determine your traits, such as your hair color, eye color, or how tall you are. Scientists who study genes are called geneticists. Chromosomes are tiny structures in cells that carry genes. They are made up of DNA and protein. The information in a chromosome tells the cell how to function. In fact, humans have a total of 46 chromosomes. In addition, humans have one pair of sex chromosomes called the allosome. This dictates the born gender. Females have XX and males have XY. DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, contains the genetic information responsible for the development and function for an organism. DNA has two intercoiled strands, as you can see on the picture to the right, and DNA is stored in the code of 4 chemical bases: adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. DNA pairs with each other to form base pairs. DNA can replicate itself, which is important for cells that divide because each new cell needs to have an exact copy of the old DNA in the new cell.
The RNA or ribonucleic acid carries the information in an amino acid sequence from genes to where proteins are assembled on ribosome. It is the carrier for genetic information in certain viruses such as HIV. RNA only has one intercoiled strand, and it contains the bases of adenine, guanine, cytosine, and uracil. Punnett square is a table that is used to predict all possible outcomes for a genetic cross between two individuals with no genotypes. Punnett squares can either be monohybrid, which is 2x2, or dihybrid, which is 4x4. Monohybrid Punnett squares are used for two traits, one that is dominant and one that is recessive. Dihybrid Punnett squares are used for two groups of two traits, one that is dominant and one that is recessive for each group.
Genetic disorders. A genetic disorder is a disease caused by a change in DNA sequence away from the normal sequence. This can occur when there is a mutation in one gene, multiple genes, or damage to chromosome. The four main types are single gene inheritance disease, multifactorial genetic inheritance disease, chromosomes abnormalities, and mitochondrial genetic inheritance disorders. Some examples of these are Down syndrome, Turner syndrome, tuberculosis, sickle cell anemia, and Pearson syndrome. We get 23 chromosomes from our mother and 23 from our father. If you unravel all the DNA molecules in your body, they would reach the sun and back several times. Humans share about 90% of genetic material with mice and 98% with chimpanzees.
Okay, so hello, welcome to Continues of Chemistry. So remember last lesson, we were going over the hardest topic in chemistry, in my opinion, and a lot of my friends. So today we're going to be continuing on acids and bases.
So we're going to start off by talking about strong and weak acids and bases. A strong base is a base that fully dissociates to give ions in solution. A weak base is a base that only partially dissociates in a solution. A strong base typically has a pH of about 11 to 14, while a weak base typically has a pH of 8 to 11. A strong acid typically has a pH of 1 to 3, while a weak acid, so as a type, typically has a pH of 4 to 6. The strong acids are chloric acid, hydrobromic acid, hydrochloric acid, hydroiodic acid, nitric acid, perchloric acid, and sulfuric acid. The strong bases are lithium hydroxide, sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, calcium hydroxide, rubidium hydroxide, strontium hydroxide, cesium hydroxide, and barium hydroxide.
Okay, and then next, before we go into a new topic, we're going to do a quick review on something we touched on last lesson, which is conjugate bases and conjugate acids. So here we have a really short table. This is all you basically need to understand. So for conjugate bases, you're looking for one less H than its conjugate acid. So for example, here we have Cl minus. And then on the other side, for its acid or its conjugate acid, you're looking for an extra H, such as HCl. There you have HCl as the acid and Cl minus is the base. These two are a conjugate acid-base pair. And you should also remember that when you have a weak base, the conjugate acid will be a strong acid. And when you have a strong base, the conjugate acid will be a weak acid. It's always opposite. And below the picture there, you have a list of 4. So you see how bases are always having one less H than the acids. So now we're going to talk about buffers. Buffers are kind of like a combination of both the conjugate acid and the base together, and what'll happen when that gets mixed. So a buffer is a solution that can resist pH change upon the addition of an acidic or basic components. So what a buffer is made of is usually an acid and its conjugate base and maybe like some water or something else. So in this situation, when you add an acid, like any other random acid, we'll just say H plus, like the most basic type of acid. You add H plus into the buffer. Well, then you have some bases, like the conjugate bases in the buffer already. So that will react with H plus, and that'll create something such as the conjugate acid. But then that doesn't really change the pH much. So seeing as the picture shows, and then same thing with your added base, but it goes in the other direction. Base will react with the conjugate acid instead of the base this time. And that'll be all. Here are a couple sources, and thank you for listening. Once again, questions you can leave in the comment section.
Hello, computer science students. Welcome back to another video with Team CS. So today's agenda, we're just gonna, it's been a long time. We're glad to have you back. It's been a rough time for us teachers. We've been having AP exams. It's basically like a test for high school students for college level courses. And yeah, it's been a rough time, but now we're back and we're back to keep teaching you guys. Next up, we're going to be going over reviewing what we learned last week on print statements. And I'm also going to be going over like optional like print statement homework, which I feel like would be beneficial if you guys are interested in doing. It's a good way to practice what we learned and, punch it into you so that, it's easier for you to remember when you decide to code by yourself. And I was going to go over primitive types, but we don't really have time. And lastly, I have linked our Google form at the very end if you have any questions or comments that you would like to send for us, and that we'll answer next week. So first, our print statements. So we know that the system.out.print and the system.out.println methods are used to send output for display on the console. And so, output refers to like the text or images that are sent to the console, which is basically the screen that we see back. And the only difference between them is that the println method moves the cursor to a new line after it gives you the given data, while the print method does not. And a comment is any text in a source code file, just consider it as a file for now that is marked to not be like, for like the computer not to touch. Like the computer, if it reads a comment, it won't do anything with that, anything that is listed there. So in Java, a single line comment is denoted or written by two front slashes. This is a front slash, and multi-line comments. Basically, you can write multiple comments through a front slash star and ending it with another star front slash. And I was going to show you guys an example on REPL, I guess. So this is a single line comment. And if you wanted to write like more text, doing this every single time would be inconvenient. So that's why we have this line star, front slash star. And then you can write like, this is a multi-line comment. I know it says an error right now, but I'm going to fix that. All of this will be ignored by the computer. And then if you end it with another star and front slash, the computer ignores all of this. And yeah, you don't see that error anymore. Okay, back where I was at. So next is potential homework that, y'all can do. It's good for you. Homework is always optional here though. You don't have to do it. It's not mandatory, but I do recommend doing it if you have time, since it's a good way to practice computer science. The more you do it, the better you get. So, the more you practice, yeah, good stuff. So since you are going to be watching this through a video, I know it's going to be difficult to attach files. So I plan on showing the assignments that I have for you guys on my screen, and then you can just pause the video when you want to read it and do it. So these are just 4 simple assignments. It's just like printing out a hello world statement, practicing more printing, printing choices, escape sequences. I'll go over escape sequences a little bit more, but these are the files. If you want to just take a look at this, pause the video. Okay, I'm going to go to the next page. Okay, that was the second assignment. I don't really think you guys need to know the assignment for the first one, because when you open up a REPL, it automatically gives you the system.out.println hello world. So I think you guys should, you guys already got that. This is the third assignment. You can pause the video right here. Okay, and this is the last one. Oops. Okay, yeah. And so a little bit more on escape sequences. Where was I? Okay, so for the fourth assignment, I think you guys may have some questions about how escape sequences work. And so escape sequences are used to signal an alternative interpretation of a series of characters, or it basically tells the machine through your code another way to understand some characters. And in Java, a character preceded, which means to like come before something. And in this case, it's talking about a backslash. That's what it looks like. It's the opposite of what we just went over, the front slash. Is an escape sequence. The Java compiler takes an escape sequence as one single character that has a special meaning. And so later on, I guess in assignment 4, we will be looking over some simple escape sequences, and this will be \t, which inserts a new tab, \n, which inserts a new line, double quote, which inserts a double quote, and a double backslash, and this inserts a backslash. So basically, if you've seen the pattern here, is that I guess for like these last 2, you just put the backslash in front of it in order to make the double quote or the backslash to appear, because we know these are like special characters, right? In our previous lesson, that when you use like a print statement and you want to write out whatever string you want to, you need to use a double quote. And so that can sometimes make it hard if you want to print out a quote and a quote uses double quotes, but you can't use a double quote because that'll like cause a syntax error with the machine if you're using a double quote, because it's supposed to stand for like the string. But yeah, sorry if I like made things more confusing, but you guys got this, don't worry. It's really simple. Just just read the text files. Yeah. And last but not least, if you guys have any questions or comments, I linked right here on my screen a Google form that you guys can always go back to and send questions or comments that you guys have, and we'll always review it and we'll get back to you next week. And these are lastly our sources. And thank you for coming, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.